and availability to go for a cannon rush. All right, the gateway on its way as well. So overall, very standard openings from the Protoss end. And, you know, everything here very standardized as far as openings go. SoulKey adding his second hatchery to the build order mix, helping out his economy chug along throughout the match. And what we'll most likely see from SoulKey this game is because he decided to get those 3 hatcheries up, we're not going to see any crazy 2-base all-ins, no insane roach timings, at least on 2 bases. He can still do some weird things on 3 early on if he chooses not to saturate those expansions. And really what we'll see from the Protoss player, it just depends on what tech path he chooses. Once that cybernetic score reaches 100%, Warpin, you go into the Stargate tech, go into the Robotech very fast if he wants to do some type of 2-base, all-in or timing. And if he wanted to be really weird and confuse people, he could go for the Twilight. Generally, Twilight timings have kind of moved towards 3-base when you get the blink. And very standard, just going for the Stargate. Sora will most likely make a few Phoenix out of that building. Oracle is always an option as well, if he can catch SoulKey off guard. But I feel, you know, a Zerg is the caliber of SoulKey. It's kind of hard to actually do a good amount of damage to them with a unit like the Oracle. Generally reserved for players that aren't really on that top level of StarCraft play. So we got Sora adding in his natural gases, all standard timings. Again, I'd like to mention that early game into mid game, PvZ has become very standardized. The players, they're so good, they figured out the exact timings, the exact build orders, what they can get away with under, you know, most situations and circumstances. And the Phoenix on the way. I also have Sora building that mothership core. That'll help him against any type of annoying Ling run-bys or maybe timings in general with roaches. And even if Mutalisks decide to come into play later on, it can help against that threat. And the first Overlord has been scouted, so this Phoenix will go to town on that. Should be able to actually get the second one as well. Sora, of course knows about that, tickling away at the Overlord's health with the Sentry. And they'll eventually finish it off with this additional Phoenix. SoulKey also spots the additional Phoenix in production, but overall pretty standard stuff. And I believe the Sentry did actually end up picking off the second Overlord. Zergling out the third. Sora's going to bring some units over there to go ahead and pick that off. Also has a Robotics on the way, getting the +1 attack. Sora potentially wants to go for a bit of a timing. Actually, going for an early third next is around 8 minutes. Not too early, to be honest, but still a really good timing if you want to be a very economical Protoss player. And I'm pretty sure, based on what I've seen from Sora in the past, he's going to go up to 3 bases, and then he's going to attempt to do some sort of very strong timing, maybe a little bit offbeat. And actually, SoulKey, he doesn't really have any Spore Crawlers. He lost up to 4 workers essentially for free. And Sora, looks like he's going to soar his way to a very slight advantage. He's sending some Zerglings to the 3rd base, but he won't really be able to punish that with the Mothership Core there. The Zealots would have to make more units in order to really try to break that. The Phoenix is continuing to try to pick off a drone here or there, doing a decent job and forcing a few more Spore Crawlers from our Wunjin Zerg. And from the looks of things, we're going to see Sora get an uncontested 3rd base. And pretty nice, up to 7 workers already killed, just off of 4 Phoenix. Very impressive. And we have the Probe Congo line moving towards that 3rd expansion. Observer as well, now out for Sora. It's got a single Observer, I believe, and a Warp Prism on the way. And oh, this is actually really cool. Really, really cool. Sora, he's getting his +1 shields and +1 air attack. This basically guarantees that Sora's going to move into some what of a Sky Toss unit composition. And he's going to get a lot of Void Rays. Maybe he'll add in Tempests later on. Could even add some carriers into the mix should we see something crazy. And the Zergling's going to get us around on these two Zealots from Sora. A little bit over-eager on the Zealots. They're going to eventually, or unfortunately, go down. And also Colossus range being researched. 2 Stargates now being warped in. So this is going to be a very heavy Void Ray / Colossus build order. And SoulKey is getting the Spire. He's getting a few Swarm Hosts out as well. So that seems to be his unit composition. Overlord does manage to scout the robotics facility. And based on what I see from SoulKey, he's got a lot of Queens. He's getting his, he's really focusing on those melee upgrades for the Zerglings. With the Spire on the way, I would not be surprised if we moved into a very late macro-orientated game from both ends. It's what their build orders are kind of leading towards. I would like to see SoulKey attempt to take a 4th base pretty soon as well, because we have seen Sora on that 3rd expansion for quite a while. I guess the problem for SoulKey is he's still, I mean, he sees the Stargate, so I suppose he knows what's up, but he doesn't know exactly what's building out of him. It's safe to assume, however, that it is Void Rays. And also, very interesting when you see this kind of unit composition from the Zerg and Protoss player, the supplies are actually quite even. And that's because, you know, he's focusing a lot of his money on the Swarm Hosts, while the Protoss player on the other end are going for the Void Rays. A nice pick off, killing that drone. That's going to delay SoulKey's 4th expansion for at least a minute. And in StarCraft, it's a game of milliseconds. 1 unit can change the entire pacing and course of the game. He will also have a Zealot planted at the 4th expansion. Should help delay as well in case any drones decide to head down that way. And just overall, looking at the current pace of things, I would like to say that Sora is ahead. He easily got 3 expansions, and he's moving into his heavy Void Ray unit composition. He has a few Colossus and other supporting units to help them out as well. But the Overseer should be able to easily see the rest of this army, unless the Phoenixes get there in time to pick it off. I guess very interesting that SoulKey has decided not to get his Hive. I guess he's really focusing on those upgrades. He's about to have +2 attack, +2 armor for his ground units. In addition to that, he will have the Zerg Flyer attack. And with Corruptors on the way, that'll help out as well. Nice time warp goes on the Locusts. That's a ridiculous amount of them, but I think that this is a very strong Protoss army with the Warp Prism for reinforcements. This is going to be a very hard defensive position for SoulKey to hold, but if any Zerg can do it, it's going to be him. The Phoenixes are starting to fall. Void Rays being charged up, but there's simply not enough anti-air to deal with the Void Rays, and this is becoming a very sticky situation for SoulKey. He's moving back his Swarm Hosts. He needs to keep those alive. Colossus, and there are now 3 in the mix with a lot of Stalker support and a few Sentries. Things are starting to look extremely dangerous for the Zerg player SoulKey. All right, the Corruptors going to town. A few of the Void Rays getting picked off quite easily. The Swarm Hosts, excellent units at forcing delays, but you know, they are now basically open and ripe for the taking. The Locusts are going to come out and deal some damage. The Zerglings melting like flies to the Colossus fire, but there seems to be enough Corruptors out to deal with the Void Rays, and following that, the Colossi will remain bare to they get picked off, but the Stalker count may prove to be too much. There are roach reinforcements. The Swarm Host count is starting to dwindle as well. Does SoulKey have enough to defend against this attack? It's going to be very close one way or another, but Sora, with these additional reinforcements, the supplies are getting very close, and we could see, yes, we do see, for the first time in the game, a Protoss supply lead, but will he press forward with this attack or back up? Backing up seems to be the wise decision. SoulKey will do the same and secure his 4th expansion. Both players are somewhat low on gas. Sora has a good amount of minerals. I'd love to see him attempt to take in a 4th expansion. Would have been very cool behind that attack, but I think that Sora was really hoping to make something happen with its timing. But SoulKey, I mean, his nickname is the Iron Zerg for a reason, and it's because he can defend against seemingly unstoppable armies. And, you know, he did it with grace. All right, well, it looks like after the large battle, we're seeing a progression in tech. Sora will secure his 4th expansion while taking a Twilight Council to improve his ground upgrades. And SoulKey moving into the Hive tech, giving him access to Vipers, Ultralisks, and Broodlords should he desire to use any of that tech. And it seems, though, against this composition, he may not entirely need to use any of those units, at least temporarily, but the Vipers would certainly be useful for picking off any lone Colossi or Void Rays. Sora knows about the 4th expansion. He's sending some units for a run-by. Luckily, Sora, he did scout that with the Xel'Naga Watchtower towards the top of the map. Expect to see a little bit of a warp in on his end, but that's a lot of Zerglings. They have 2-2, and this 4th expansion may actually get canceled. The Void Rays need to come here and help defend. The Zerglings realize, all right, the Nex is just a little bit too high, and they're going to be forced back. This hatchery is going to be absolutely toast. The Zerg army out of position, and Sora getting essentially a free Nexus. Oh, that could have been very nasty for Sora if he didn't warp in that Zealot at just the right time. Very lucky scenario. Should be able to pick off at least some of the Zerglings. Yeah, he's going to be able to get most of them. Very nice. Supplies are looking quite even. 199 to 190, so for the most part, maxed out armies on either end. We're seeing the +2 ground attack begin for Sora. He's also moving into Blink Tech, getting more Void Rays out, and he wants to start his harassment once again with the Warp Prism. May use that as a more of a mobile forward pylon. And on the Zerg end, we have additional Corruptors, the Adrenal Gland upgrade to make the Zerglings essentially Cracklings, and we also have Infestor Energy being upgraded as well, so we could see some Infestors added into the mix shortly for SoulKey. And Sora, wanting to compete with the tech competition, he's going to round off the end of his army with the Templar Archives and Fleet Beacon. I'd love to see some more air upgrades from him, based on the fact that he is mainly having a Void Ray-centric army. Overall, Void Ray Colossus. The Zerglings doing a good amount of damage. They'll eventually get picked off, but actually they're killing off a really good amount of probes, and Sora not doing anything about this, losing them all for free. And a little bit of a misstep, I feel, from the CJ player. At the same time, he's forcing a cancel on that 4th expansion. This is actually very, very critical. If SoulKey can't secure a 4th expansion, he's going to have no bank, and the overall efficiency of Sora's army is going to simply be superior to his counterpart. And Sora, he's got a Warp Prism. There's 4 Zealots moving into the main. SoulKey has 4 Spine Crawlers, though, for defense in the main. But the important thing is that Sora is forcing SoulKey to split up his army. He's moving across the map into the jaws of the beast, potentially. Oh, just back and forth, applying some pressure. Looks like the Warp Prism was picked off. We see +2 air attack being researched, Storm being researched, and additional robotics on the way as well. And additional Infestors now going to be added into this army mix. That's a ridiculous amount of Corruptors. Infestors as well will be on the way, and we see it. Here comes the big attack from SoulKey. He's corrupting all of the Void Rays, but the DPS from the Zerg army proves to be way too much, and Sora just warps away. The problem is he may actually end up losing this base. He doesn't have Storm yet. He's forced to warp in all these High Templar and immediately turn them into Archons, but Sora, he will not stop at this harass. This 4th expansion is going to fall once more. The Stalkers need to be quite careful against the overwhelmingly Locust numbers from SoulKey's army. He has to hold on to this 4th expansion, and SoulKey, he's going to run out of resources very soon. If he does not secure a 4th base, he has to at least kill off Sora's 4th expansion. Zealots running towards the natural. They'll get picked off. And the Greater Spire on the way. The Locusts are just going to continue to slowly siege the Nexus of Sora at the 4th expansion. The really important key point is that Sora, he delayed delayed, and now he has Templar Storm. With the Storm, he can fight the Corruptors a lot easier. He can fight the Locusts much easier, and he can even use feedback on the Infestors if he gets into the right position. But I would imagine that Storm will be the primary use of these High Templar. Even can use feedback on the Queens as well. That can help out quite a bit. And the War Prism harass continues. The Locusts are getting this Nexus down to actually down to 100 health, and they may actually end up killing it. The Nexus falls. What is going on? Sora being a little bit non-committing to defending this Nexus. The Zealot Warping will be good in the main, but the Warp Prism will eventually fall unless it zips out of there quite fast. And the Spine Crawlers along with the Queen and the Zergling reinforcements, those Zealots are essentially wasted ammo at this point. Alright, so we have the Stalkers blinking into the third expansion of SoulKey. They should be able to pick that off, which will be very nice. These Zerglings getting melted immediately. They have the Dark Shrine on the way, but oh, what is this? A beautiful fungal hitting the majority of these Blink Stalkers, and they will all fall very cost efficiently. Does lose the hatchery, but I think SoulKey is okay with the trade-off for, he's basically mined out in all of his bases anyway, so as long as he keeps the fourth expansion, he'll be fine. And look at this. We have a Dark Shrine finishing. We have Tempests on the way, +3 Protoss attack. What an amazing final first game in the series between Sora and SoulKey at the WCG 2013 finals so far. All right, SoulKey, he's moving into an offensive position. He's ready to siege the Protoss army. It's a wide open area. The supplies are favoring SoulKey. He has the Infestors, the Swarm Hosts, which will give him a lot of extra free units. Picking off some probes like they're no one's business. That's got to be quite annoying. And the Corruptor count is just really annoying, isn't he? Hard to deal with. The Tempest, there's 2 of them, but I mean, will it really be enough in this scenario? He's going to be able to be quite annoying with them. And Fungal goes down, hits both of the Tempests. The Storms land. They do a little bit of damage. And the Void Rays are all completely charged up. The Zerg army forced to retreat. Sora, this is his chance. He has to make this work. The Storms are excellent on the Corruptors, but they still remain alive. The Swarm Hosts, however, they are essentially sitting ducks. The Corruptors, they all fall. Sora, has he been able to do it? The Archons are still alive, but there's no detection to kill off the Swarm Hosts, and the Locusts are going to simply pick away off these units one by one, but the Observer, it looks like they may potentially come. No Observers just yet. And we have 2 robotics making the Observers, but overall, supply-wise, things are looking excellent for Sora. GG is called, and Sora wins game number 1.